The user experience that Marie-Francoise will introduce you into more depth later consists of 5 steps. So you see that we start to engage with the users to try to understand them and so on, and then they go deeper and deeper into the technicalities before they have something operational. In this engagement that I'm going to talk about now with the hackathons, it's not only the start phase, because the typical persona engaged in or active in hackathons are more on a geeky side, is more a technology person. So we might go through the entire 5 steps, but we focus on the first step here. Now, we are using a special type of hackathon. You might have when you say hackathon, you might get on your brain some sort of evil kid doing nothing good. But actually, hackathons has turned into a very useful tool for many good deeds, and we are using it very actively. And I'm going to introduce you to the Inspire Hackathon. And the Inspire Hackathon is not an event. It is a process, and I will explain that to you. And here you see Karel Harvat. He is the co-founder of Plan for All and the initiator, we call him the godfather of the Inspire Hackathon. And he is also a partner in NextGEOSS, just to say that. Now, who is this hackathon for and by? And you see here the Inspire. When we say Inspire, it's actually referring to the Inspire Directive. The Inspire Directive is the European directive that work on and give directions on making national data, governmental data, interoperable across borders and fields. So this is in line with what we do. So the Inspire Hackathon is actually a series of collaborative events, not just one event. And it's for developers, researchers, designers, and other interested in open data, such as the Copernicus data, volunteer geographical information, and citizens observatories. We have a lot of social media data and the use of apps that we also want to integrate. Now, do we engage with people? Yeah, this is a complicated slide, but you see here we engage in NextGEOSS. We engage through this Inspire Hackathon with a number of other Horizon 2020 projects. In particular, we have been working a lot with Data Bio and Interos you're not seeing here, which is a mistake, but we have done that as well. And here you see on the other side, on the bottom here, you see a series of Inspire Hackathons. We have an annual major Inspire Hackathon in connection with the Inspire conference, and then we have this satellite hackathons to ensure that we can engage with developers across the year, so to create some continuity and sustainability. And this is the way we are engaging with many different entities. Here. Are there any results coming out of this? Absolutely, it is. We are building, one of the results I would say is that we are building capacity among our users of the platform through the many webinars, educational webinars that are being, is an integral part of the Inspire Hackathons. And then of course we have this webinar series that we have now, but in the Inspire Hackathons, we have webinars that are educating the topic of the selected topic of the hackathons. For instance, you see here this curious fox. He is curious about open data and APIs, for instance. So API was one of the focus areas in a hackathon that we organized. And here is another concrete example. You see here people from 3 major Horizon 2020 projects working together on combining Earth observations and statistics for evidence-based policymaking in polar regions. And so you see, you should notice that there are many different projects. You know, the persons involved here come from many different projects and institutions. And what we did, we identified through actually this is a result from a second hackathon that this group worked together. And we identify some data sets that we then cataloged on our data hub. And you cannot see, cannot go into all the details now, but we actually have also done some analysis after this hackathon using some of these data. So we cataloged the data, and then we identified further data sets that needs to be combined. So it's sort of a, you also see that we can use the hackathons to really collaborate on it and improving and creating applications that are much richer than if we did it alone without the hackathon. And with that, that was a very short introduction to how we can use hackathons to engage with the communities around us. You can learn more about this and a lot of more about NextGEOSS also in the summit. We will not fail to use this opportunity to invite you to the NextGEOSS summit in 1st and 2nd of July, just prior to the EuroGEOSS workshop in Lisbon. And with that, I give you Marie-Francoise again.
Okay, so I will do again the introduction about what is the onboarding and what is a user-centric onboarding process. So what is onboarding? What you find on the dictionary and you can find on the internet is that among several definitions, it's the act or process of familiarizing a new customer with one's product or services. And this is exactly what we want to do when we want to engage. We want to make people come to you and feel comfortable with your system. But then what is a user-centric onboarding process? User-centric means that it's really the interface between the user and the system, but we want to focus on the user. So what we have done is that in the 80s and the 90s, there were some methodologies which have been developed for marketing mainly, based on the concept of user personas to characterize the different profiles of users. The concept is to define a fictive character, but with real attributes and real behaviors to help the designer build a product which really fits to the way the user is thinking and reacting. And this approach helps the designer be better able to infer what a real person might need. This is the approach we have implemented to better define the onboarding process. So among the users we can have for NextGEOSS, we have identified several profiles, like a young developer, like Erica typically, Mark as a senior developer, who will have a different behavior than Erica, Jane, who could be a senior project manager, Tom as Earth observation scientist. You can also have John as a general engineer, Brad as a scientific developer, or Hannah as a community portal scientist. I hope that all of the attendees here can recognize themselves here in these nice pictures. So Bente has introduced a very typical and now I would say classical way to onboard, which are the hackathons. But the hackathons will, which are really great, I mean, but they might not, you might not attract in the hackathons all these different profiles of personas. And sometimes the projects are bigger and more complex, and they require the contribution of several participants. They might require also evolutions of your system itself. This might not be feasible in a hackathon, and this might require a more global process. Also, you have to consider that some people like to learn by tries and errors, and others prefer to read a user manual before using a system that they don't know. So your onboarding process has to be able to address all these different types of behavior. Among those who prefer the tries and errors, and which are typically the people you might find in the hackathon, some of them might like to read the user manual when they will fail or when they want to go further in the use of the system. And this is where also a more global onboarding process can be useful. This is why NextGEOSS has developed a more complete and more global process to approach that, even if, again, it's not any critique towards the hackathons, which are really interesting, even including for you to learn about your users. So we have structured this onboarding process in 5 steps, which are the user engagement, the data preparation, the platform setup, the pilot's integration, and service operations. This is, of course, a very macro level. And so if you want to onboard, you will need more details about these 5 steps. You probably know that the concept of NextGEOSS has been to develop 10 and to implement 10 pilots. And out of these pilots, we have built a full architecture for a data hub and a platform. And so classical presentations of many projects, when they will like to invite you to join them, will be to present the resulting architectures. And typically for NextGEOSS, this will be the architecture. It might not be very easy, and it might even be reluctant for some people to try to understand this architecture directly. So the interest of this 5-step onboarding process is that we can take your hand and go through all the activities which have to be done in a very progressive way. So we have detailed all the activities which have to be made by steps. So here you have the user engagement, data preparation, platform setup, and so on. And we have detailed all the activities which have to be done in each of the steps, either by the new partner or by the NextGEOSS partners. And this is what I'm going to introduce you quickly. So in the user engagement, first, of course, you have to contact us. It can be through a conference, but it can also be via the website, where you go on NextGEOSS, you go on the menu Join Us or Engage, and then you select the good form, you fill the form, and then we will select the pilot. So we will contact you to discuss your idea of pilot. And when we begin to be aligned, then we will make a kickoff preparation with all the technical partners. This is about the first stage engagement. So now you fully understand what are the activities here. And it's beginning by your action to come to us with your proposal. Then the second step is the data preparation. What will happen here is that you will tell us which are the data you need for your application, the Earth observation data. And we will assess if these data are already available into the data hub or if we have to harvest them. So you will send the data description to the service desk. We will, of course, at the end of the kickoff, we will have provided the service desk information to you and created and give you your credentials. And then you might have some technical meetings. If some data are a little bit specific or exotic, we will have some technical meetings to prepare the data access and harvests if it is needed, because the data are still not into the data hub. And this is what happens with the data preparation step. So you can see, again, it's quite easy to understand. Considering the platform setup, your application might need some specific ICT resources. So we will have some technical meetings with you to identify the resources and provision the resources. We will also set up eventually auxiliary tools or libraries or services that you require. We already have a certain amount of libraries which are available. And then we will assess and provide a feedback on when these resources will be ready. So this stage, again, is, I think, quite clear. So the pilot integration is probably the most complex step and where all the work happens. So we provide an integration platform, and we provide a list of services, Earth observation services, that we have developed while implementing the 10 pilots. And we have transformed them into generic services, which can be reused by any Earth observation application. So on the platform, integration platform, we will give you means to integrate, test and validate, and transfer to operations, or maybe send again to test and validation until you are ready to go to operations. These are typically the services that are provided by NextGEOSS, such as I told you already about the data preparation step. If you need some data and to build some harvesters with us, this is where this happens, and I have highlighted in different colors on the architecture graphic, which are the different services. So here are the data hub harvesters, the discovery enablers, the processing enablers, the OGC WPS client, the OWS context here to get the data, user feedback in case you are interested in adding some user feedback to your data or to your process, usage analytics if you want to run to operations and check, monitor how you use your resources, and user management, including SSO. So these are the services we provide. It can give the impression that it is easy to develop a user feedback with a type of rating about your data, but user feedback, which is provided here by University of Barcelona, is integrating and leveraging a lot of work through previous European projects because they rely on a lot of standards, and this is very interesting because it's making very powerful services out of that. This is the same for the SSO, which are also benefiting from a lot of AIPs which happened before. And this SSO is a very clean service we provide here. When everything is ready, you are ready to go towards operations. And this is, again, one unique value from NextGEOSS, that we are cloud agnostic, so the application can be pushed into any type of cloud. And we provide tools to monitor the resources you need and how your application is performing. With that, we have mainly browsed all the activities that happen in all the different stages and different steps of our onboarding process. Of course, all this is detailed and documented very cleanly into a document. The first level document is a little bit more detailed about the story I have told you right now. And then we have some links that go to more technical documents which are dedicated for the developers, really. So this webinar is very short, but as Bente has said before, you can come and meet us at the third summit, because we will have 1.5 days to go in detail in all these steps and present the benefits all the pilots from NextGEOSS have got from these NextGEOSS services and this NextGEOSS process. And all the partners will be available to discuss with you some ideas to onboard with our team.